Welcome to the Careers by Jenn podcast, episode 232. This time on the podcast, Jenn speaks with Rajshree Patel about how to prioritize and manage emotions for more energy. It's got me thinking. I wonder if I would have more energy if I could prioritize all my positive emotions and put them up front, and manage all my negative emotions and defer having them until after I'm dead. Do you think that would work?
You're listening to the Careers by Jenn podcast. I'm your host, Jenn Swanson. This is the podcast that helps you to get the job, love your work, and advance your career. Careers by Jenn is a listener-sponsored podcast, and if you like the content, please consider supporting the show as a patron. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. Head over to CareersbyJenn.com and click on support to learn more. Hey friends, I seem to be on a roll here with 2 episodes in a row with people who teach meditation. Can you tell what my current fascination is? Well, today our focus is on how to feel more energetic by prioritizing and managing your emotions at work. And my conversation is with my guest, Rajshree Patel. Now, Rajshree is a former prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the L.A. District Attorney's Office. But now she is a mind and Vedic meditation expert, a renowned self-awareness coach, and also an author. Raj has transformed the lives of thousands of people around the globe with the work that she's doing, from Fortune 500 CEOs to homemakers to students to actors, artists, and even war veterans. I began our conversation by asking her how prioritizing and managing emotions can give us more energy.
Well, I think the first thing we have to realize is emotions drain us of energy. You know, it takes a lot of energy to feel bad, to feel angry, to feel sad. Everything is energy. So if you don't regulate the emotion, you're really draining yourself of life force, of energy. So that's the first thing to understand, that our body needs fuel, our thinking, our mind, our brain needs fuel, and so do our emotions. It's a funny thing to say, but when we're really tired, no matter how amazing something is, we don't even have enough energy to enjoy or to laugh. And people sort of say that in a curious way. They're like, oh my God, I'm too tired to even laugh or to get out of bed. I know it would be great, it would be fun. The head is saying that, but the body's not leaping in to jump in because we're tired. So there is a direct relationship between the amount of energy we have and not only the drain from energy, but the kind of emotion we feel. So low energy gives us low emotion, low hertz, low frequency, low vibe. High energy gives us high emotion, high hertz, high vibe, or optimism, positivity versus negativity. So that, I think, is the first thing to understand and really required for more success personally or professionally.
So when we're at work, presumably we want to have positive energy, good energy, more energy to be able to be productive and to get our work done and connect with people. And so the different kinds of emotions are those that give us the different energy, I think, is what I just heard you heard you say. But my question about that is, feelings are feelings, aren't they? So if they show up, what do you mean by prioritizing them and managing them?
So it's true, feelings are feelings. But if we look, where do we get stuck more in? You know, if you have a day full of amazing feelings, something's happy, something's excited, but you have a traffic jam and you're driving home and you have the feeling of frustration, impatience, anger, there's a deadline at the other end and you're stuck in traffic. you'll notice that at the end of the day, what sticks to us more is not the positive feelings. We get stuck in what didn't work, the emotion that was negative, the feeling that was negative. And so prioritizing emotion means making a conscious decision to say, wait a second, this isn't working for me. It begins with a conscious choice. Getting stuck and talking about the traffic versus the 10 things that were great in my day is only draining me more. It's only getting me more stuck in the negative experience rather than uplifting me out of it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And emotions have a real effect on our physiology, don't they?
100%, 100%. You know, I'll tell you a story. I had a friend who went through chemotherapy. It's a sad story, but he went through chemotherapy, and the doctor that took care of him, he's passed away since, was the doctor who did amazing amount of experiments on the Chernobyl nuclear accident. And one of the things that he said to my friend about my friend's situation, to us as a family and friends, was that I don't understand how come the chemo and the radiation worked and then he was back within 11 days with cancer cells showing up again. He was not in remission very long. And one of the questions he asked was, is this someone who suffers from a lot of guilt, a lot of regret in life? And his parents responded saying, actually, yes, he was married. He had a very difficult time getting out of that marriage. Until this day, even though it's some 16 years later, he's still struggling with the regret and what happened in that marriage. And so then the doctor went on to share, he said when he did a lot of research, he noticed that guilt was something that affected our physical health in such a toxic way, because the emotion itself is so toxic. It changes our cellular structure. In a way, we change our genetics, with it. So anger, frustration, guilt, these are all toxic emotions and they're part of life. We're not saying they shouldn't be there. We have our moments of anger and frustration. As kids, we did also, right? Little kids have a screaming fit, but then what do? They let go of it very quickly and they come right back into the present moment. They're right back with their new toy or the old toy. They fight with another friend, but they immediately become connected again. Whereas with adults, what happens is that stuff sticks to us. The yada yada, the noise, like my friend, what should have been, could have been, why wasn't it? It played in his system some way or another over the many years. And that doctor said, really, this contributes to health and wellness one way or the other, So for sure, when we're unhappy, everything from sleeping less to headaches to digestion problems, all kinds of things come up, and it's tied to our emotions.
I'm reading a book right now that has a lot of information on epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
And this new, relatively new in the history of humanity, science that is telling us that our genetics are not set in stone.
Yeah.
That we can affect them through emotions and thinking and action.
Absolutely. I'm not sure which book you're reading, but it's something I'm fascinated with, and it's a lot of conversation in my book in terms of science and what we can do. But to address this idea of epigenetics, our thoughts, our emotions, our pattern of thinking changes our genetics. So even if I have, let's say, a gene for some disease, whether it's Parkinson's or cancer or something, some disease, it doesn't mean you have to get that disease. We can change the expression of that gene by changing our mindset, our thought process, the way we deal with our emotions, and certain corrections in lifestyle. And that is, as new as it is, has been proven 100+ times over that we are in charge of our own health and well-being if we can address and connect to the way we think. And epigenetics is new, but ancient wisdom in many traditions, certainly in India, Vedanta, which is the ancient wisdom of India, they knew that. The scientists of that time, they were called rishis or seers or masters, they knew that. And that's not just in India. If you look at Buddhism, if you look at the, traditions in like the Aztec and so on, they knew getting close to nature, connecting with ourselves, having a positive outlook, eating properly, all these things impacted not only how we lived, but how we felt and how we experienced the world around us. So definitely, there's a lot to be said about learning about our own mind and our own emotions. And unfortunately, nobody teaches us that, not at home, not at school. And we figure it out,
Yeah, there's a program that just started in we have one child still in school in high school. The rest are older than that, but they have something called Stress-Free Fridays that they've started, where they have some kind of relaxation or de-stressing activities for the teenagers on Fridays at the school. And I think it's starting. But it's in no way advanced yet. They're just starting to recognize that that children and teenagers have a tremendous amount of stress these days as well as adults, and that it's helpful and healthy for everyone to have some moments where they can break free from the pressures and do some self-care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting you're talking about education and how it's starting, In ancient times in India, there were these two set of schools you would go to. One was the first 12 years of school would include learning material sciences, math, reading, arithmetic, science, etc. But simultaneously, we went to a school to understand our own mind, our own emotions, meaning education on spirit or happiness, joy, how to maintain your inner landscape of joy while you do whatever you have to do with material sciences in your outer world. And unfortunately, that's a dying thing, even in India. But I often think about how we could really improve our education system by adding, just like we have curriculum around math and science, curriculum about our own self and understanding our own emotions and our mind and our thoughts and how it governs the results we create outside. Kind of, we could call it, value-based education or self-awareness education, as much as we might learn about other things. And unfortunately, it's disappeared. But to your point, all over the world, I think that's growing slowly but surely. I even think that the world is really focused on giving, like what you're doing with your program, spreading a positive message, bringing awareness and uplifting, not just, the bad news that we see all day long. 80% of the news, 90% of the news is negative oftentimes. And I think people are becoming very conscious that we have to up level and spread a different kind of message. Look at the positive and not just what's not working.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think there is something bubbling, bubbling up in different areas, and I think work that various prominent people are doing, and grassroots people and individuals. I think all of that is working together to help people realize that we do have a choice, rather than just reacting to what's being thrown at us, because a lot of it is awful right now. Can we take control? And a little while ago you said the first step to prioritizing and managing is to make a decision. that you're going to do that. What if you make a decision, but then what happens? Because the amygdala and the emotion, it's also strong. When that negative emotion or that damaging emotion takes over our
Yes.
brains and our bodies, what can you do to manage that?
So I think it's absolutely correct. There's two different sides, right? There's the decision thinking brain, and then there's the amygdala, the limbic, kind of the emotional brain, if you will, or the memory bank full of, all kinds of information that comes at us unconsciously or consciously. And what do we do with that? And I think this is where things like breathing techniques and meditation come into play. This is where emotional regulation, to your point earlier, becomes very, very necessary. Now, how do you control your emotion? Telling yourself, hey, if you're upset, relax, doesn't work. And if somebody else tells you, it doesn't work, because it's thinking brain talking to another thinking brain, right? Decision rationale talking to another decision rationale. It may work for a second, but our amygdala is so powerful. We're storing so much stuff, much like a hard drive on a computer. There's so much there. And sometimes you go to search on a computer for something. What happens is it triggers, based on history, a lot of other data and suggestions and information. And the same thing happens to our brain. We are a hard drive with so much history. And based on what's going on, it can trigger a lot of other files to open. And so we feel kind of helpless to it. And what people don't realize scientifically is that your breathing has a direct ability to control, to move the limbic brain from on to off switch. We just have never learned how to do it. And that's really the ancient wisdom that I'm talking about, that says there's an easier way to regulate, not by thinking, not by logic, not by quote decision making, but by directly turning it off. And so if I might just continue for a moment to
Mm-hmm.
say, when we are under stress, the amygdala response, right? Fear, anxiety, anger, worry, etc. We are in sympathetic system. Sympathetic physiological response is turned on, which means fear or freeze or run, flight. Now, we want to move from that grip of the amygdala, the stress, to relaxation, the parasympathetic aspect of our nervous system. How do we do that? Again, talking isn't working. Time is usually what we do in order to move from stress to calm. But who has time? We're all struggling for wanting more time. There's a quick way. Our breath, which is automatic, can also be controlled. And if you elongate the breath, if you enter a conscious use of breath like an exercise, you switch off the stress system and turn on the relaxation system. And that is the brilliance of what's right under our nose as a tool to take back control. Do you see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So intentional breathing, conscious breathing.
Correct. Correct. So, and not to belabor science, but we know this, right? When there's intentionality by the experimenter, the observer, we have one impact. Our intention changes the result. So, two things are true about breathing. Number one, every single inhalation, when we breathe in, we take in oxygen, of course, which we need for our body to function, for our cells, and so on and so forth. But we also take in something else. It's very subtle, kind of like the fragrance of the flower. We take in what we call vital force, life force, or energy that is not just gas exchange, O2 for CO2. And what happens is that reboots, it up levels the state of our mind. It makes it more positive. And that is truth. Each inhalation energizes us. And then every time we breathe out, something interesting happens. It's true, we get rid of CO2 and we get rid of physical toxins like pollution and lactic acid buildup in our muscles and so on and so forth. but we do something else because we're not just our body, because we are a thinking, feeling, physical being. We also release something from the thinking, feeling state. We dump stress on an exhale. But most people during stress, guess what they do, Jen? They do the complete opposite of what's required. They shorten their breath. They go unconscious on the breathing. They don't breathe in sometimes or breathe out. All the muscles in the body contract. The breath stops or slows down, and then everything gets stuck. We hold on, in a sense. That's a very popular way of saying we get stuck. Hold on. And if we just consciously breathe, number one. Number two, longer. Elongate it. Take in more oxygen. Take in more of that vital force. And breathe out longer, meaning dump the stress that you don't need, not just from the body, but your emotional, mental being side of you as well. Now you're regulating, and you regulate without any cognitive thinking about it. You don't have to calm your mind down in order to meditate. You simply need to use the breath like an exercise machine, like a dumbbell. Elongate it, lift it, put it down, hold it, put it down, and you change how you think, how you feel, and therefore how you act.
And you can do that at work with no one noticing.
Yes, that's the most beautiful thing you can do. Anyway, we have to breathe all day, thank God, right? We do have to. And nobody knows you're breathing. All you're going to do is make it longer. And I can share a tip with the listeners, which is I say to them, if you create a habit of breathing in 3 specific discerning moments of your day for the rest of your life, you know what happens? When we're under stress, without thinking about it, without having to remind ourselves when the amygdala has taken over, you will naturally find that you move into the relaxation breath. So the 3 places where I tell people, number 1, first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up, hit your snooze button, be lying in your bed or sit up against the headboard and do 10 long breaths, conscious and longer than usual, in and out. You do a number of things with that. Number 1, you energize, you get rid of the CO2 from your body. You start to wake up the whole system, so you kind of bounce out of bed with a little more aliveness and liveliness and excitement. But also, you shut off the yada 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 that may have gone on at night. I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I've certainly had it. Sometimes I go to sleep, 6-7 hours go by, and I think, oh my God, was I thinking all night or was I sleeping? You know that feeling of like you're processing when I have so much on my mind. Or I sometimes go to sleep, or at least it used to happen a lot to me. I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up kind of more tired than before. That's because emotionally, mentally, the amygdala was clicked on and it was processing. And we don't know how to click those files off when we get up in the morning. So we have this feeling like, oh my God, I got up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't know what's with today. I just need to get back under the covers again because something's off. That's because your brain was processing. There could be 100 reasons, but one of them is through the night you were processing an old file. And we woke up because we have to, and we get on with the show because we have to. But that file is open quite like the tabs on a computer that are open in the background, draining energy, although you're not working on them. You know, it's slowing down the computer. It drains energy. If too many files are open, it crashes the computer. The same happens to us. So first thing in the morning, 10 conscious breath. I'm telling you, in 3 to 4 days, people will say, wow, this is making a difference. Number 2, discerning place just before lunch. If you can do it before every meal, great. But certainly before lunch, because we literally are what we eat, and we oftentimes eat under a situation of stress, processing, analyzing, and all of that. And you know, and I know, there's so much around gut health and, you know, flourishing friendly bacteria. They don't flourish in an acidic environment. Stress creates an acidic environment. And so when you're waiting for your meal to arrive, or as you're waiting for your friends, or as you're walking towards the elevator to head towards lunch, just start breathing. Nobody knows, to your point, that you're doing it. Nice long breath in and out, 10 breaths. You calm the system down. You absorb, you digest better. The assimilation is better, and you just improve your overall health. So it's a second place to every day do this. And the third thing is at night when you go to bed. How we enter sleep determines the quality of our sleep. And most of the time, we sleep with, I should have, I could have, why didn't I, why did they, I didn't tell my boss, when someone told me this, I shouldn't have let him get away with it. There's so much of that goes on, and there's no way to solve it. It's already done, it's in the past, but we affect our sleep, and we have a crowd in our bed. They've moved on, but we take them with us because they're stuck in our head, in our yada, 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 right? Going on and on. So there we are in bed. How you enter will level the deepness of the sleep. So 10 breaths at night. You're laying down on your back or your side, and all you got to do is start to breathe. Long breath in and out. And you see that the system relaxes. You actually get better sleep and wake up better in the morning. And as a result of these 3 practices on a daily basis, when you're in a chaotic, difficult, stressful situation, sometimes I certainly come across of that where there's a lot of negativity coming at you. You don't know what to do at that moment. Naturally, the body triggers into elongating the breath. A little bit of attention goes back on you, and that is the fastest way to emotional regulation.
Wow, that sounds so simple, and yet it would take time to turn it into a habit, I think.
Well, we just have to do it, every day.
Hmm.
It's like, how long does it take to develop a habit of brushing our teeth? A long time. This, in less than 3-4 days, if you just remember to do it, maybe set a little beeper that reminds you, or stick a little sticky pad. That's what I did in the beginning. Just on my bedside, I had a little sticky pad that said breathe. So first thing in the morning, I would see it and I would breathe. And last thing at bed, I would see it and I would breathe, And in the beginning, maybe I forgot the lunch, but morning, evening, oh my God, this is doing so many. Okay, let me do it at lunchtime also. So it's a reminder more than a habit that's needed.
So I am so curious, Raj, how you went from being a criminal lawyer to being a self-awareness coach and meditation expert. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
it's it's certainly a leap from the left brain to some other part of my consciousness and awareness, right? So I I lived in New York. I'm a immigrant from India. Both my parents were in India. I mean, in New York. My brothers were there. I got transferred to Los Angeles because I was working at the U.S. Attorney's Office, federal prosecutor. And I was new. I didn't really know anybody in the city. And, the difficulty of leaving family, being in a new place, a new job. Actually, it was my first job in a sense. Starting your career, everything is new. And I just wanted to connect, which is our natural instinct, and meet somebody. And I happened to see a sign that said Pandit Ravi Shankar. And you may know he was a very famous sitar player in India at the time, who's since passed away. But I thought I was going to go to a music concert. Okay, let me go, meet people, spend some time. So Friday night, basically, instead of a music concert, I arrived and discovered, whoop, it's a spiritual master. It's someone who's got the expertise about human emotions, human mind, because they've done a lot of deep dive within themselves to see, oh wow, the mind governs with a certain set of rules and principles just like the body does. And I was curious, and I think that that's a huge quality in life. If you remain curious, a lot comes to us. And so I took the course. 9 hours later, I was looking out of my eyes in a different way. concretely and emotionally. And when I say concretely, I mean, instead of taking 4 hours to put a case together and being worried about, am I going to get it right? Am I going to remember? Oh my God, how do I look? What is the defense attorney saying? I didn't think of that. Oh, the judge just ruled against me. What am I going to do? You know, that noise that goes on in our head about anything we do, not just in a courtroom, um, suddenly stopped. And that meant my efficiency and my productivity had up leveled. I was suddenly getting things done in 1 hour, what might have taken 4 hours. I was getting out of my courtroom being done at like 3 o'clock, whereas before I would sit in the office till 7 o'clock working the next day's file. I would be like, okay, 5 o'clock, see you. And my colleagues would still be there in the office trying to go through what they had to. And so
this was after 9 hours?
9 hours, because it's all experiential. The training is entirely experiential. Not conversation, but here's a tool, here's how it works. And then, you know, the instructor would teach it, you're guided by it, you do it. And I was like, wow. And then, Jenn, what changed is the perception, meaning things that seemed difficult somehow seemed more like a challenge, not a problem, you know, just that subtle difference. It's like the difference between fear and excitement is the label we give it. The experience, physical, emotional experience inside our body is the same, but some call it fear and don't risk. Some call it excitement and they risk, you know, they go down and slide down the mountain and ski, while somebody else says, no, they get frozen there under stress, you know, and pull back. So I noticed that liveliness, that sense of it's okay, we can do it, that inner confidence had changed. And I got greedy, to be honest. I thought, oh my God, if 9 hours does that, I want to know more. And then I went on like a 3-day, 4-day, a longer program. And eventually, sometime down the line, you know, one thing led to another, and I just was so much more fulfilled. I was at a place where I was now consciously choosing versus going through the autopilot of my social conditioning. Do you know what I mean? We all have it, right? By the time we're 9, we're hardwired with right and wrong and should be and should not be. And then we take the rest of our life to somehow unfold into that. And then we get our hard lessons that make a shift. But what I noticed is when I have more energy, when I have more vital force, I'm naturally more open and more available. And when I have low energy, I'm naturally more, you know, either negative or locked in or less collaborative. And I bet it's true if I asked, you know, you or the listeners the questions, when you're low on energy, are you more willing, more cooperative, or less? Are you more positive or less positive? Do you see the glass sort of half full or half empty? You know, optimism, positivity, sense of empowerment is directly linked to how much vital energy we have. And we don't know how to reboot and up level it. And these tools, these techniques were around control of the amygdala, therefore conserving energy, fuel, and up leveling the amount of fuel I have. Look, we plug our phone in on somewhat regular basis. If we see that 10% battery, we run to the nearest socket. You know?
Yeah.
But what do we do about this battery, this brain, this body? We don't even realize it, and we kind of rely on coffee, sugar, adrenalines, you know, some substance to get us through. And unfortunately, we sacrifice on sleep, which is kind of the worst thing we could do if we want more regulation. It's not a luxury. It's a requirement, like breathing. And so all the dynamics change when we up level, when we start to reboot our system and plug in on a daily basis. And it doesn't take a lot. As simple as what I just said, these 3 discerning moments of breathing, you know, honoring the fact that sleep means sleep. I don't sacrifice on that. There's so much studies around this also. An hour and a half later, your brain needs some kind of rest. Well, 10, 12 hours later, the brain needs rest. If you sleep, you up level the efficiency of the brain. It's like 100 different ways it's been proven, but we do the counterintuitive. Okay, I'll sleep tomorrow. Well, there's no such thing as catching up on sleep. If you don't sleep 4 days, you don't sleep 5 days worth the fifth day. It just doesn't happen that way.
I'm a big fan of Sean Stevenson and the Model Health Show podcast, and his book Sleep Smarter has been an excellent resource for me in learning how to get more sleep, how to manage sleep, and that's definitely one that I've been recommending to people because I know it has an awful lot of practical tips in it to help people sleep more. Now, you've got a book that you've just put out, or it's coming out.
Yes, it's coming out. It's The Power of Vital Force, and it does exactly what you said, gives a lot of practical tools and tips. First and foremost, it brings understanding, education, and awareness about where our emotions, our thoughts are getting stuck. So there are a lot of sort of self-awareness exercises, what I call the self-talk, to get a wake-up call around, wow, I'm spending 80% of my mental effort and efficiency on something that's already over. Wow, I'm spending, 80% of my time on emotions that aren't working for me: anger, regret, guilt, blame, fear, anxiety, whatever that might be. Oh, wow, here's what I can do about it. And I have misunderstood how to handle my mind, because oftentimes we deal with our body and our mind in the same way. So the book really talks to us about the rules by which mind can function optimally, and then gives tools and tips. And by the way, there is it's something I can offer to the listeners. If they go to my website, thepowerofvitalforce.com, and they've ordered the book, there is an 11-session online course that gives a lot of tools. It's me personally guiding people to use different tools and techniques to regulate and to optimize the mind.
That sounds wonderful. So when is the book coming out?
It comes out October 1st.
Okay.
Can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, or just, as I said, go to thepowerofvitalforce.com. Interesting, I know that you have a global audience. So the book is coming out by Hay House, and it was an amazing surprise for me. I wrote it. I didn't expect anything other than a release in the United States, but when I was going through the final manuscript, I noticed the copyright page, and it talked about UK, Australia, and India. And so I immediately called my agent and I said, are they telling me the book is going to be released there? What a surprise, a great surprise. And the answer is yes. So the book is available in Europe. You can go to Europe, Amazon, in Australia, and in India. In India, it's a ebook, not a hard copy. But so October 1st, kind of across the country, across the globe.
That sounds very exciting. I look forward to taking a look at it. Absolutely. Where can people find you, Raj, if they want to connect with you? Do you have a website, etc.?
Yeah. So one is they can go to thepowerofvitalforce.com. There's also a lot of free content there: how to sleep better, how to manage stress, tools and tips, dealing with anger, and so on. But also you can follow me on social media. All my handles are the same. It's by Rajshree, my first name, Rajshree, by Rajshree.
Excellent. And do you have one last piece of advice for the Careers by Jenn listener today?
Yeah, it's a rule I follow. Universe rewards action, not thinking. We don't really realize how much overthinking we do, and as a result, we get ourselves stuck. And I just find that if I take the tiniest of action towards what matters to me, what's meaningful to me, what I want, not just what I have to do, then the support comes towards me some way or another. So I really invite people to say, just trust yourself, get into action.
Well, thank you, Raj, for this conversation today and all of the advice and the things that you've given us to think about. It's been really rich.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Careers by Jenn with Jenn Swanson. If you like what you heard, please share this. You know, if every single person listening today shared this episode with just one friend, our audience would be twice as big just like that. And the more people we can help with our content, the better. So help out a friend and help grow our audience by sharing this show with someone you know who would benefit from the content. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, take good care.